Should be live on LinkedIn. Hey everyone, we are live. Glenn made me go live. We were going to do a lovely pre-recorded in the studio. He couldn't get into London, so we went on video, and then we've gone live. So welcome everyone. I've actually prepared a little intro because this is our annual wrap, and I think we've done, I don't know, maybe it's our 5th or 6th annual wrap. So it's a yearly thing where we're looking back and then looking forward. So if 24 was the year of the AI hype, 25 is the year the rubber actually hit the road. And frankly, it's left a lot of marks on the industry. We went from playing with chatbots to watching agentic AI start doing the actual work of many junior team members. We watched a traditional CV finally lose the war against personal branding. And we navigated the job market that, let's be honest, felt completely broken, full of ghost jobs and candidates who felt invisible. It's been a year of massive friction, high tech versus high touch, return to office mandates versus a workforce that demands flexibility. And to wrap it all up, I'm doing a download with my best bud, Glenn Martin. Thank you for joining me, my friend.
Hey, brother, thank you. Yeah, it's got to be at least year 5, if not year 6, for our annual wrap, right?
Yeah.
And as you just outlined in that intro, how much has happened in 2025? Big year for people and talent.
Oh yeah, massive. I mean, it feels like so many. I don't know whether it's because you're in it, and when you're in something, it feels like. But the last few years, there's been an incredible pace of change and stuff going on for the recruiting industry and just for industry broadly. There's just been so many things going on. I want to talk about 4 or 5 things, and I want to kick off with the rise of agentic AI. And so for those that maybe don't know, I mean, or haven't played around with stuff, I've been playing around with Perplexity's Comet browser, which is really interesting, and you can kind of set it to go and book holidays for you, or you can even go and set it to go and source LinkedIn for you, and things like that. Maybe just to kick off, have you been experimenting, using any of this stuff? Is it just hype? Yeah.
Man, I mean, I'm always curious, right? Or we rewind back to the days of kind of early chatbots, and I've always been curious about how technology can help us, further enhance our creativity, productivity, output, value. So you mentioned Perplexity, which I think is quite interesting because it's almost like it's a web browser with an AI assistant built in. And, I think we touched upon pre-show OpenAI's Atlas browser as well. So I think these are early stage agentic systems, simply because they require us to give it the input, the boundaries, the guidance, what to do, what not to do, etc. So it's interesting that these kind of tools are available to us now. So yes, I've been experimenting with them, certainly automating workflows as well. I've done a whole bunch of stuff using kind of make.com as well, which has been fun. Well, it's been interesting, challenging, frustrating. Make.com, make.com, yeah. As I said, it's been interesting, frustrating, challenging in equal measure, but very satisfying to start building and thinking. So, and I think this is possibly something we'll get into during the course of the chat. The lines being blurred between what's AI enabled and actually what's just a really good automated workflow.
Yeah.
So yeah,
what's that doing?
Sorry,
go on. No, go on, Karen.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've tried every LLM, so Gemini, Claude, obviously ChatGPT, Copilot, because that's been part of my process of being able to put together kind of training packages and modules to deliver to companies. So Short answer, yeah. I've been experimenting with everything to see, what works, what doesn't work, and kind of make decisions for myself in terms of, what's going to be useful for me as a one-person business,
Yeah.
and equally what I think could be potentially useful for, the kind of clients that I partner with.
Yeah, I like that. Now, what does it mean if we look kind of take it down to like people entering the workforce? I mean, I remember back in the day when I kicked off into just in the workforce. I started in fashion. I then went into recruiting. But back then, I was on. I was doing a lot of the grunt work that these tools can do. I was
Mm.
like gathering names, going through the yellow pages. Back in the day, I'd go to the library and try and find people who are in different positions in companies and things like that. Now that's gone. So what does that mean for like that kind of model of learning? For me was just invaluable. What does that mean for
Well,
young kids now?
I would say, what does that mean? First and foremost, I think that pathway that you navigated was largely driven by you, because I think you were driven to learn more, do more, find what your skills could be applied to. I think more broadly, the introduction of kind of AI has just highlighted, if I'm honest, how poor that early stage career experience can be. So
Yeah,
even though you and I were brought into kind of perhaps corporate jobs and given that kind of entry level role, the onboarding was probably quite basic. The general consensus was, well, we think you can be useful. We need to figure out where you can be useful. So if we just get you doing some just kind of baseline stuff, we can start to surface perhaps where your skills might lie, where we could apply and train you, etc. So to that ladder analogy, I don't think AI has broken those early rungs on the ladder. I think it's just illustrated actually probably how rickety and poor they were in the first place.
yes, Glenn, like that. Good perspective. Good perspective. It's interesting because a lot of the conversations. I mean, I'm harping back to the good old days, right? But that was my good old days, and I guess to your broaden your point out is that you're entering the workforce, and this is the workforce right now. This is it.
Yeah, for sure.
Like this is how it is. We can't wish it was like something different.
Yeah.
And so I guess as you're entering, it is what it is. And to your point, maybe people that are looking for learning opportunities, wanting to try and collect experience and things. I'm a big advocate for just collecting as many experiences as you can early on. It's funny, isn't it? Because when you talk about it in a nostalgic way, it's like, I used to be on the phone all the time, and I used to be gathering, like all of these kind of tasks, which almost make you, for me, as you get on in your career, you look back at those formative years, and you're like, that's what kind of made me, or set the foundations for.
Yeah, for sure. I think equally as well, and this is not to be kind of dismissive of you or I, but I think our expectations were probably a lot lower. And I think individuals entering the workforce now have, because let's be fair, we entered the workforce at probably the very early stages of kind of digitization of knowledge work, right? So actually, our access to knowledge, understanding of what a particular career pathway could look like, etc., was shaped by what we could learn, know, and explore. Now, I think individuals that have entered the workforce probably in the last 10 years have access to a lot more information, so therefore their expectations are framed slightly differently. And I would venture that their expectations are a lot higher.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe because of social media, maybe because you see people making $1 billion before they're 25 or something or other. Yeah, maybe it's it could be expectations. I mean, you can really see. I mean, obviously, if you look at social media, it's always someone's best life, right? But you can really see what people are up to, like how much success they're having, and then maybe that's like, well, hold on a sec, I need to be on that, or the other side of it as well. Because I was actually speaking to my friend yesterday. I mean, how often do we do a little end of year like review or spring clean of your algorithm? Because you jump on your algorithm, right? And I don't know, it's different for everyone, right? But if you kind of got into this negative kind of the world's against you. It's bad. You should be just doing 3 days a week, and you should be getting paid like $1 million bucks for it and stuff. Maybe just refresh the algorithm and get some, because we talk a lot about who you surround yourself with. It's really important which humans you're surrounding yourself with. I think it should extend also to your algorithm. I think you can reset the algorithm. If your algorithms, maybe have a reset.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's a really interesting analogy in so much as I can't remember who said the quote. I think it's probably often used, but your career trajectory is defined by the 5 most prominent people that you in your network, or the 5 most kind of closest people to you in relation to your day-to-day role, and that applies to both kind of professional and personal. And then if you extrapolate that out into your kind of social media algorithm, it's like, actually, how is that further supporting your mindset, your growth? Is, to your point, is your social media feed just full of kind of, well, not that it's a bad thing, but cat videos and the odd kind of sort of like instructional video about kind of gym membership or something along those lines, or is it actually there to kind of further feed your curiosity, your knowledge, your skills, and help signpost you? I would caveat that actually there's no such thing as a bad cat video. Personally, for me, they're brilliant. But that aside,
if whatever flicks your switch. I mean, the cat videos are good. The cat videos are good. I love that. So, by wrapping that up, I think it's maybe. I like what you're saying. So, like, if you're entering the workforce right now, whether it's now or whether you're speaking to your parents and they're like, oh, it wasn't like that when I was growing up, whatever. It's just look for learning opportunities. Look for great managers to learn from. It's a lot more valuable than often the job itself. 20s is for learning stuff. And maybe actually now, you're wondering I was going to ask you this, like, it's a head of talent or something, are they actually looking for people to manage the bots rather than, schedule interviews themselves, source themselves? Maybe someone's coming in, like 21 and like, right, I've set that bot to source. Then as they come in, I've set this one to schedule the interviews. This one's managing my inbox and writing my drafts for me. This one's writing my content.
Well, I mean, yes, the introduction of new tools, whichever tool it is, and if we focus on the AI element, it's going to change almost the scope of the role scope first and foremost, and then perhaps the kind of profile of the individual you need to fit that role scope. So I think that, again, I always view AI as a tool to further kind of advance and develop and deliver outcomes for humans. So yes, I think the nature of sort of people and talent will change and continue to change based on the adoption of AI tools, native or enabled. But that's then incumbent on the business to start thinking about org design, kind of redesign and role redesign, and then ultimately how that feeds into kind of upskilling, reskilling. Because ultimately, your only answer isn't just get that talent externally and bring it into the business. You've got a wealth of talent in your business that has that inherent and intrinsic knowledge of your business. Apply upskilling and reskilling to that for them to really sort of harness AI tools. You're getting a greater uplift in productivity, and actually culturally, it magnifies and enhances culture more when people see that investment in them and their future. So I think back to your original point, it's like, is the role profile going to change? Yeah. But the responsibility then becomes the companies to really thoughtfully think about that redesign, both at an organizational level and role level.
Yeah. And if you're and also the other thing, as I say that I find the stats, but a technical skill lasts 2 to 3 years nowadays. Oh, I love that. I love that thumbs up. Technical skills last 2 to 3 years now. So actually, I think for me, if you're an individual, because you can wait for the company to provide stuff, but you might be waiting forever. But just keep on learning stuff and have that mindset of just being inquisitive and wanting to learn new stuff. This is quite a good article. I just wanted to share this on the screen. I'll put it in the notes later. This is something on Salesforce's blog, and it's quite a nice read on how entry-level jobs are being reimagined in the agentic AI era. Jobs are changing super quick, and it's really worth diving in and learning. And for me, and this is a quote from Ali Bebo at Pearson, but the human skill stuff for me, so important. We've been talking about it for so many years, and for me, it really, your ability to learn, adapt, all of that stuff is going to be more and more critical as time goes on. So like dive in and don't wait for people to provide the opportunities and things like that. I'll put that in the
I completely agree. I think it's about ownership. You need to own your own learning journey, and your company might supplement and support that, but it's not now incumbent on them to be the sole source of your learning journey.
Yeah, and yeah, you can set up a little thing on Perplexity or Gemini. It can pop into your inbox with like 5 key things that are going on in your market every day. I do it. Have a little schedule. I don't even know if you can call it agentic AI, but it's just a little automation, and it will pop you some interesting news stories, and then that's just a kick off, right? And then you can double click in, and you can learn and stuff like that. So, moving on, I want to move on to personal branding and the hidden job market. And we've been talking about personal branding for ages. You've been doing live streams and video content for longer than I have. So it's getting more and more important. I still get people call me. I still get these annoying emails as well. I get like 100 a week on LinkedIn, like, hey, I'm John, here's my CV. Let me know about jobs, or I get people on the phone. So shall I send you the CV and stuff? So, I still think people spend way more time on their CV than I think they should. As in, the LinkedIn profile for me is your digital footprint. It's where the AI tool will find you from. Recruiters use LinkedIn Recruiter. They're looking for keywords. Now, if you don't know, like the first screen is this little AI kind of dialogue box, and you type in and it looks for people. Because, like if you are looking for a role, you either have to like know someone in your network, right? Or if you're hoping to get a role through a recruiter, you either have to know them, be found by them, or be referred to them, right? Or your last bit is the jobs board, or a job ad, and that is like suddenly your chances of landing a job through a job ad are extremely low. So the thing you can do is really make sure, in my opinion, your LinkedIn profile is optimized so you can be found. You're doing content. Content could just be commenting and liking. So jump on this stream and be like, hey guys, this is such a wonderful show. Thank you so much. Then you can say how many job offers you've got through the advice that we've just given you. It's fine. It's free. Anyway, but my point is it really works, because rather than hiding in the corner, you're out. And the CV now, it's the afterthought. It's like, oh, Glenn, like great profile, let's chat. Might have something for you. By the way, send me your CV or something like that. Or maybe they might even ask now. What do you think?
Wow, kind of personal branding it's a continual journey. Just as a small anecdote, I got to a point during the course of the last part of the summer, and I was just like, I'm not entirely sure my kind of personal branding is really resonating. I was so close to it, and you're so in it. I needed some objective perspective, so I jumped on Amelia Sordel's live show, and she basically invites 2 to 3 guests on, and she just gives some free advice on your LinkedIn profile. And I just found that like a really useful sense check. She was able to just really cut through probably some of the noise in my mind and just kind of outline some tweaks and improvements that really helped me thinking about it. So to your point, if individuals like you and I don't mean to sound arrogant here, that work consistently on our personal brand and our content building, still need that sense check and that objective feedback to ensure that we're clear on our message. If you're a job seeker, you really do need to invest in that, because ultimately it is your shop window, it is your digital footprint, it is how you will be found in relation to new job opportunities. And I think your messaging needs to be really clear to attract the type of opportunities that you want. Whether you're passive or actively looking, you do need to have that kind of clear messaging. What probably puts most recruiters off is just a cut and paste of your job description into your LinkedIn profile. They're not interested in that. They could, the majority of really good quality recruiters can tell what your job role is and probably the types of responsibilities you've got. They're looking for what's the value, what's the output, what can you deliver for this particular company that they're recruiting for. So I think that's probably the first thing that people need to reframe. It's like, don't just put your job description on your LinkedIn profile. Illustrate your value, illustrate the impact that you can have. And then I think, secondly, to your point around, don't just be active on LinkedIn when you're looking for a job, because people will look back through your posts and your interactions and they'll be like, oh, okay, so they just became active in the last sort of two weeks or 3 weeks or month, and they're open to work. So actually they didn't do anything before that. So a lot of their viewpoint will be, well, this recent contact is driven by the fact you're looking for a job. You're not somebody that continually contributes to the conversation around AI or project management or data analysis or something along those lines. So I think it's personal brand is something you should always be working on.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I mean, so for me, like, just for those that are like, oh my God, how do I even start? Because, it's easy to say, and we say it like it sounds easy, but, I do appreciate that it's, for a lot of folks, it's difficult, and they don't want to, they don't want to, they're not comfortable posting, or they're not comfortable jumping on a live stream, or when you were like, hey, let's go live, I could have been like, no, please, no. So, you don't have to, I'm just saying, you don't have to do the kind of stuff that we've been doing or others do. And most people on LinkedIn aren't producing content. I saw a crazy stat recently. I mean, it's way, I mean, it's like super high. Most people are just consuming content, right? So I would just say, to kick off with, like, to your point, is make sure you optimize your profile for whatever you are. If you're looking for work, put yourself in the hiring manager's kind of shoes. And, if you're looking for a head of marketing role for a fintech, whatever, make sure the story's obvious. Your strap line, make someone want to scroll down and contact you. So make sure that's obvious. And then with, to your point, Glenn, just start maybe 5 minutes a day, grab yourself a cup of coffee. So many people say this on LinkedIn all the time, right? 5 minutes a day, 5 likes, 5 comments, connect with 5 people. It does actually really work. And you can imagine if you do that every day for 2026, my God, I mean, your network would have gone up. And also the other point is, let's say that, Glenn is hiring, right? You're hiring. So I could just like ping you and be like, hey, Glenn, here's my CV. Love to chat. Okay. Hit rate, probably less than 50% that you get back to me, because probably a lot of people do that. But I could spend maybe a few weeks liking all of your content and commenting. Nothing crazy, just some insightful stuff, a few sentences, maybe just even a thank you for posting or whatever, then drop you a DM. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the chances of you responding to me go up dramatically.
Agreed.
Like,
yeah, I think,
person?
yeah, you're building kind of almost like social credibility, right? So, you're somebody that people are, kind of following, interacting with, you're sharing, commentary or content, or, just your opinion that's really resonating and contributing to a wider conversation. And I think in that respect, when, for example, you do coldly submit your CV into a particular hiring manager, the first thing they're going to do is look at your LinkedIn profile. And the question in their mind is going to be, who is this person? And ultimately, are they credible?
Yeah.
And your LinkedIn profile and, the content on there can go a long way to setting the context for that. It's not necessarily going to get you an immediate response, but equally, it's not going to get you dismissed.
No. And also, look, the job ads are crazy. I mean, if you jump on LinkedIn and look at job ads, depending on the sector you're in and what level you're at in your career and things like that, there's so many people that seem to be applying, and you have this easy auto apply thing as well. So, people are applying to jobs, they might not even realize they've applied, or they just sort of apply. And generally, I mean, they've got a bit better LinkedIn because it will filter based on, who they think is most suitable now. Otherwise, it's just done on who has applied first. And if a human's looking at the applications, I mean, how many can you look at? If there's a few hundred, do you honestly go through a few hundred? You probably look through the first few, you've got 10 decent ones, fine. I'm going to connect with them, you interview them, and the others, unfortunately, don't get communicated with. So that's just out of your control, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point you make, and I think there's probably a popular misconception, actually, that now I think the reality check is most people feel like they're sending an application into a bit of a digital black hole.
Yeah.
I wish there were more transparency from companies in relation to their almost their filtering and parsing process. So, even if they said, look, if you're within the first 100 applications, you will get feedback within X amount of time. If you're in, kind of the next 200 applications, we'll get back to you in, 3 to 5 days time or something along those lines. But the reality is that actually, to your point, if you're not inside that first, maybe, kind of 30 to 50 applications, the quality or the instances of you getting feedback and the instances of you getting a reply diminish quite rapidly.
Massively.
And that is unfortunate.
Yeah. And then the other part, just to note, is this hidden job market. I know some people don't like the word, whatever. I run a search firm. We're not advertising. Or if it's a confidential search, no, we don't advertise. Or even, if it's an in-house TA team, they might be doing something that's sensitive and they won't be advertising. So in that scenario, you do want to be found. And again, this personal branding and contributing to the conversation, whether that's, I'd say it's an and game, online and maybe going to networking events and maintaining your professional network, not just when you need them, but just be like, hey, fancy catching up. You might be in a job, right? But just investing, I don't know, you can maybe say once, one phone call a week or something with an old colleague will pay dividend in the nicest possible way. Because so many people get jobs through old colleagues. If we're looking, if we're sourcing, we look at our database, who we know, and we do fresh research, and a lot of that will be looking for people. And again, one of the ways to find people is through LinkedIn, keywords and things like that. And so again, this is kind of links to being optimized and being visible and stuff like that. So it's something that you can do in your control.
Oh yeah.
So it's important. I want to share one other article because I'm on the articles right now. So I'm going to put this in the show notes as well. And this was quite good. I'll put it up on the screen. And this again, so this is quite a nice article about, because this is true. A lot of people, it was a side hustle, content generation and stuff. Now it's a genuine career strategy. I quite like this article, so have a read. I'll put it down in the notes. And if you've kind of played around with this and you've kind of listened to what we've said and you kind of agree, but you haven't quite jumped in, spend some time over Christmas, and it will definitely pay dividend. Definitely. Yeah. So I want to say on all of that, right? We talked quite a bit about AI and tech and digital stuff, right? But human connection, human skills, I think for me even more and more important. I think both contexts. So even a lot of large companies, I say large because a lot of smaller ones, they might not be doing so much of this stuff, but a lot of larger firms, they might be using AI to source, but maybe to do the first interviews with the AI avatars and all of this kind of stuff. But I think the human element perhaps gets lost. Well, I don't want it to get lost, but sometimes it gets lost sometimes. And, this classic people leave, people not jobs, or you'd put up with a bad job if you have an amazing manager. And, you know, it's fine to find people and hire them, but you want them to stay, right?
Mm.
Like this kind of connection stuff. So are you seeing it's being lost a little, or actually you think some people are kind of going the other way and really doubling down?
So if we take the analogy of, or we focus in on perhaps the candidate experience through a recruitment process, and you just mentioned there that first stage interview being conducted by an AI avatar, or even you know, kind of whether that's kind of virtual, visual, or audio. I think the key thing for me is utilize the technology as long as it delivers a good quality candidate experience. But equally, don't blame the technology when the candidate experience isn't what you want it to be, because that's your responsibility. That's how you build that experience, that, you know, that flow, and it's how you implement that particular, so in that case, that first stage interview. So you need to test, learn, get feedback, understand what that experience is like for somebody. Don't just plug it in and roll it out because it's convenient, optimize efficiency, and, you know, frees up the time of the recruiter. So I think it's really around, does the technology further enhance the overall experience, and can you prove that it overall enhances the experience? If yes, roll it out, because actually the connection then is really the individual's connection to that experience they're having, and there will be naturally human touch points through that. I don't think it's and or. I think you can have, you know, both. The human connection can be very much there. It's just how you bake it into the experience.
Yeah. I guess it also depends if you're recruiting kind of mid-level, junior, or you get lots of jobs or seasonal workers and things. You want to optimize for efficiency. But the problem is, you know, you have like your AI tool sourcing. Then you've got these wonderful AI tools that can write incredible emails, right? And so we'll reach out. You've got the chat bots, you know, they'll schedule interviews for you. You know, the exec level, for me, you know, the volume is obviously less, and you can get a bit more, because you can tell so much about someone by, you know, like these little communication things, right? Or, oh, I'm really sorry, we have to move the interview, right? And or just whatever it is, just these little kind of interactions during a process. Now you're not even sure if it's like, you know, so like maybe the email might come in like, I've got to move the interview. So you're whichever AI tool you might use. Jace AI is quite good, or what's Fixer AI. There's a few of them that will write drafts for you. And so rather than writing an RC email back saying, I can't believe you're moving my interview, it's written for you, and you're like, okay, cool, that's way nicer than what I would have said. And so, yeah, you just kind of, you know, so maybe there's a case to be had. I'm going to put it forward here for just actually getting on a phone call, meeting them for coffee, or just interacting with people in a much more human way.
Those micro interactions. So there's almost the structural part of the process where, you know, for example, wow, look at this.
I can do that.
Loving it. That's for candidate experience. So there's the structural part of the process where you need to book interviews, schedule interviews, you know, calendar syncing, etc., which is, people will accept that as a process, and they will accept a degree of kind of that being slightly automated if it's efficient. Doesn't necessarily need to be overly human. It just needs to be efficient and not feel like a friction point. And then I think the micro interactions that you're talking about can then populate or be inserted into that particular flow. So, and knowing when to insert that into the flow. So for example, if an email's gone out with a number of kind of interview dates, candidates selected that, great, booked in. Then the reschedules needed to happen. Emails gone out, we need to reschedule. Automated emails gone out, need to reschedule. And then the candidate's like, oh, well, none of these really work for me. Email comes back from there, none of these really work for me. Don't send them another automated email. Just, that's the point you get on the phone and go, okay, let's sort this out now. So that's the point where the human connection comes in. That's the trigger point, right? So the automation effectively has not failed to deliver an efficient outcome. The most efficient outcome is not another automated email. It is essentially a phone call or a WhatsApp message that says, hey, Lewis, when are you available? Da, da, da. And that quick interaction immediately enhances that human connection, immediately enhances the experience, and gets you to the point that you want to get to, which is a rescheduled interview. So it's knowing when to insert those pieces in and not when to continue with an automation.
Yeah. So also, if you want to get the best people, you really have to work hard at it. I mean, if you have this mindset of like, oh, obviously everyone's going to want this job I'm recruiting for, and they almost just, whatever, if you don't apply, if you don't respond, there's going to be like 10, 15, 20, whatever other people. But if you're looking for like hard to find people with like skill sets that, you gotta work hard at it, and people want to feel, they want to feel part of something. They want to feel part of a community. They want to feel a bit of love. Yeah. They want to feel that you're really working hard to provide them with the info, to tell them what it's really like. And, I spoke to someone the other day, he's CEO of a large firm. We're doing a CEO role. All the questions are around culture, around the people. What's it like? Just real human stuff. So I just, you want to, for the firms that can blend the two together, I think they'll win.
Absolutely.
People coming in,
Yeah. Agreed indeed. And I think it's one of those things where, again, building your end-to-end workflow to be really efficient, but actually knowing where the real value add is in terms of that human connection, and knowing when that kind of touch point is really important to the individual coming through the process, as opposed to what's just really efficient and useful for you as a company.
Yeah. Done. I want to say one quick story. I said this last year, some friend of mine called me up and they were like, I've said this a few times, but they called me up and they were like, interviewed this candidate on Teams, and they were like the best interview I ever done. They got them through an advert, I think. And then so my friend had emailed this person to say like, great interview, I want to get you in for a face-to-face. And the email came back saying, just to let you know, that was my AI avatar plugged into ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And the guy had no idea. So I'm thinking, like, hold on, I mean, I must have asked pretty basic questions or whatever. But the technology is incredible. I heard that if you ask someone on a video to go like that, if it's an AI avatar, then you sometimes if someone's got a fake screen on, you can kind of see it's not quite right. So anyway, just be wary. You never know who you're meeting, and maybe just get a little bit more. If you're using those same, dusting off those questions from like 2018 or whatever it is, just update your question set.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think with the AI avatars as well, they don't tend to move the eye line. If you're moving, they don't tend to very cleverly move with you. Another thing to be mindful of.
So moving on to like my fourth thing, and this is ghost jobs. So a lot of people have been complaining about it online. There's actually an article as well I'm going to share. I'm really on my articles here.
Cool.
So ghost jobs here. Let me share this, and we can just talk through this story, and just interested to see if you've also. Here we go. So apparently there are loads and loads of ghost job postings on LinkedIn and other jobs boards over this past year. And there seems to be a bit of a disconnect between open positions and actual hiring. So a lot of candidates feel like they get gaslit by the economy, and there's loads of jobs. And, are you seeing this? Are firms doing this to kind of give a false impression that they're growing and they're hiring like crazy? Or what do you think is driving it?
Well, I think the first thing to recognize is that it's not technically illegal, is it, to have a ghost job up? I don't think by UK
why would you do it though? Why would someone do it?
I mean, again, you come back to that kind of brand recognition piece, really, right? It's a situation where you're effectively looking to illustrate that you're continuing to hire as a business, and it's another way of kind of almost, and maybe a slightly cheaper way of keeping your brand out there, as opposed to kind of paying marketing campaigns. Because what's the what's the one real driver of kind of brand recognition? It's like, well, we're continuing to hire, we're continuing to grow, we're a place that you want to be. So,
So you
you
think
know, two
people
things
are?
to
Do you
think
think?
about. I mean, I'm not saying it's
Yeah, yeah.
ethically right. I'm just saying, one, it's not illegal to my knowledge under UK employment law. And two, some people might just see it as another marketing channel.
Fair enough. So you think, I'm saying you think this is a good strategy, but you're saying that some companies are consciously deciding to implement this strategy that you've described, just to show the world, hey, this is great, everything's cool, 2025 is the best year ever. We're, hiring so many roles, but we just can't find anyone worth hiring. So
Yeah, I mean, again, ethically, I don't think it's right, and I would never encourage a company to do it. But if you think about it, it's a strategy, it's a channel, right? You might just capture an individual that's passively looking, that applies to that job that's been open for like 6 months, and that individual could be incredibly, it could be a real value add to your company, and you'd want to be able to kind of invite them into the process.
Yeah. Feels lazy though, doesn't it? Because you can
No.
instead do a wonderful piece of LinkedIn content, and you can be like, hey guys, like we're looking for incredible people right now, whatever. And it's instead of a job ad, which you have to pay for on LinkedIn. You can just do a really cool piece of content, or just a video saying, hey guys, this is, we're looking for like awesome marketeers. Like, come
I
join the party.
guess it depends on, kind of how you want to approach it, right? I think the more creative, proactive, and better kind of positioning is to do exactly what you said there, kind of build content that attracts individuals to, kind of inquire about opportunities with your particular business. I think that's because that's something you can continue to keep active and continue to nurture and continue to engage, individuals. Whereas a job ad is very kind of linear in that respect. So I always encourage, and my preference is to go that route, content generation that attracts people to your brand and talks to your culture and your values. And actually, the most authentic part of any business are the people already in it. So if those individuals feel empowered and motivated to want to share what their experience is like working for your company, I don't think you can get a better piece of content than that, in my opinion, from a from an employer brand perspective.
Yeah, 100%. I think it will. If you're posting ghost job ads, I think it will come back to bite you, because to your point of people won't hear back, and if 200 and 500 people apply to your ghost job, you're not, you're either going to just have some automated thing that will just be like, thank you, we'll let you know. Sorry, I don't know. So anyway, I feel, if you're unfortunately being caught in that as a candidate, and you are really looking for work and you're out of work, it's not a great spot to be.
Yeah, I agree. Just on that final point, I think we're kind of talking about kind of ghost jobs, and I think that just contributes to the low trust in the market more generally. That kind of low trust that people are becoming a lot more disheartened and a little bit more kind of cynical about applying for jobs, and that's never a good thing. But equally, I can understand it, because people want to feel, back to your point, the human connection. They don't want to feel like it's just a data entry process, or they're part of a data entry process.
Yeah, 100%. All right, last topic. I want to talk about.
Go for it.
I want to talk about the career path. And I talked to a friend yesterday on another podcast that'll be coming out soon. But just like the contract was, a lot of the time it was like, you go to university, you get a better paying job, you earn enough money to buy your first flat and get a mortgage, and it keeps going. That contract seems to be eroding. I think for the first time well, the minimum wage is the same as the entry-level salary for PwC, which is interesting. Now, obviously, you have other career prospects, whatever. So, but I think that is interesting. Then I would say again, the other point to this is, so let's use PwC as an example. The classic career ladder would be like, you start, you can be assistant manager, senior manager, director, partner. There's a career ladder. A lot of companies, certainly these big ones, they're taking out the middle rung. We've seen many recently that have just got rid of all these middle managers. And suddenly the career path looks maybe, I don't know, less like a path, a bit more of a jungle, or maybe a snakes and ladders, up and down. And maybe, I saw, it was an interesting article in The Economist earlier on this year about the crab career, where sometimes you might have to scuttle across, to scuttle up, to scuttle. And also there's a lot of stuff around, maybe you go work in a smaller firm and then suddenly you're learning loads rather than just. So what's kind of your take on like the career ladder, and how do you think it will kind of pan out this next year?
I think in my mind, this is just an extension of what we started talking about in sort of 2023, 2024, which is the portfolio career, right? It's really collecting kind of projects, experiences, knowledge, and that can be in different particular teams or functions or areas. I think if we're talking specifically about organizations like PwC, etc., they're now having to redefine what their organization will look like based on the adoption of AI, and actually a slightly less linear pathway is the end result of that. So to your point, you might still have the hierarchy, but as you go to each, so you might just be like whichever function, analyst, senior analyst, lead, etc. And then when you get to sort of from analyst to senior analyst, you can go into different functions, and then that propels you up to kind of lead, and you go into different functions. Then I think there'll still be some degree of hierarchy. There needs to be. I would like to think that perhaps within companies we're starting to get a lot more mobility. And perhaps that's what that crab analogy is talking to. It's a little bit more kind of mobility and less, well, you work in data analysis, you can't go over into UX and design, or you can't go over into another function because there's clearly defined skills and experience you need for that. And maybe AI is the equalizer of that, the leveler, as it were. So I think for me, it comes down to org redesign and role redesign is happening, and people need to take more ownership of their own career and what that will look like, and not again rely on a company to just basically map that pathway for them.
100%. The other thing as well, and just to talk about people that are entering the workforce, is I was speaking to a guy the other day, and he was like, his son's like 15 or something, and so this guy said to me, like, what should I tell my son to do in terms of career? Like, what should he do? What should he do? What A level should he take? What degree should I tell him to go to? This kind of stuff. And it's interesting, right? Because you're like, the honest answer, the answer I gave him was that maybe his job might not even be invented yet. I mean, it's very difficult to say. And you have a lot of people where, it's true, right? Like we were doing like an AI, chief AI officer, an AI ethics officer. I mean, these jobs, these titles didn't exist last year, right? There's many jobs that are kind of. So the problem you have is folks like of our generation advising the younger generation without really thinking through, because the easy thing is like, go get a job. I mean, sorry, go get a degree, right? How can you go wrong with that advice? Now, actually, I was, being a plumber, being an electrician, being a tradesman, learning a trade, like it's a really good career path for people. Not everyone's suited to a degree, right? Like we're not cookie cutters. And I think like for me, I said to this guy, it's like, just if your son follows the stuff he's good at and that he enjoys, and also that you accept that, in your 20s, you just go and collect experiences and you try different things, and that's cool. it might not be that, you go and join a bank or an accounting firm and that's it, you're set until the day you retire. But it's very uncomfortable to think, to advise your kid. It's like, go try stuff. It's hard to, unless you want to be a doctor, and then obviously go get every single degree under the sun.
I would add to that, and I think it's probably putting a little bit of pressure on somebody that's kind of either, kind of school leaver or college, is really understanding how you translate your knowledge into value and outcomes. And how quickly can you assume knowledge and translate that into some form of action or activity. I don't think now it's necessarily about knowledge accumulation, and that will determine the type of job or career that you have. It's really, how can you quickly deploy that knowledge for it to then have a valuable impact or outcome for your team, function, business. That is driven by almost like continuous learning.
Yeah, and like, using stuff, can you find the info? But then also the other thing is, I would just say also, obviously, like the people that get the jobs, the promotions, they get, called into the projects, they get the call from the old boss. I just boils down for me just to human stuff, like being able to build a relationship with someone and like being there, turning up on time, working hard, being organized, being professional, like going above and beyond, and going hard. Like, I think those things, they've always been there, and it's going to stay, whether we like it or not. Like, you've got to go hard in life.
Yeah, I think increasing your effort levels is always a good thing in any job, in any activity you're undertaking. If you're doing your best and trying to overachieve, that's always a good thing. But at the same token, I would caveat that with, it needs to be reciprocal. So don't continue to do your best and over deliver, and you don't really feel like the company's giving you anything back. It needs to be a mutual exchange of value. And I think that's something that, again, people need to take ownership for. It's not just enough to sit there and go, I've done this amazing thing, and now I'm going to sit here and wait to be rewarded for it. It's almost part of that qualification process. It's like, if I do this amazing thing, what do I get in return?
Yeah. And hey, if you start early on with your personal branding and you're getting out there, you're building your own value, and I love all that. Right, to wrap this up, obviously we're in the UK right now. We had a budget, which has been very interesting. We're seeing, believe the numbers, we're seeing lots of millionaires leave to go to the UAE. I'm speaking to people that want to leave. I'm speaking to people that want to stay. I'm speaking to small businesses that are struggling immensely. What do you think the outlook is for 2026? For all the different moving parts going on, are we going to be sitting here saying, hey, 2026 was the year? Or is it going to be another struggle through the mud?
Well, look, the UK economic outlook, given the budget last week, was probably more of the same. I'm not sure that it gave business owners, business leaders more confidence to go out and invest in people. I think the cost of obviously hiring has increased and will increase post-April. And that will make them think about, again, back to that piece around org design, role redesign, and obviously investment in that. So I think economically, more of the same, maybe a slightly tighter or slightly more narrower hiring numbers. And certainly in the NEET category, that's the bit that concerns me. So not in education, employment or training. That age group, 16 to 24, the percentage of people in that category has actually increased in the last 12 months. And I don't see the government has really done anything or implemented any initiatives to address that. So that comes back to your point around those early stage or early rungs on the career ladder. What does that mean for those individuals, that particular demographic? So that's an unanswered question. And to answer your question, more of the same from an economic point of view. I think AI will continue to be a key source of conversation. And I think that actually individuals need to really thinking not so much around the tooling, but investing in the people and upskilling and reskilling the individuals, because there's no point having a really shiny, amazing AI tool if your people haven't got the capability to utilize it. And certainly when you think about the fact that we'll be switching, or there's already a switch certainly within software engineering to usage-based or consumption-based pricing. That will happen to kind of non-technical audiences like ourselves. I can see a switch to consumption and usage-based pricing across all of the LLMs. And then the question for CFOs is actually, do you want 50% of your workforce burning tokens and thousands of pounds on, oh, can you create a Slack message for me?
Right.
So I think there's a couple of things that need to be considered there. But to answer and wrap up one of your questions is 2026. I think the only hard skill that will really survive in 2026 is the ability to learn in public and share your learning. That's the hard skill that I think that people need to really focus on.
Solid. For me, just to wrap, I think, UK economy, I think I agree with you. Kind of ebb and flow. I think a lot of businesses have been struggling, depending on the industry. I think it will be much of the same. I think for the individual who is trying to build a better life for themselves, improve their situation, move ahead in their career, whether you are entering the workforce, whether you're kind of mid-career or trying to start a young family and want to, whatever it is, right? But the things that are important to people I speak to are, it's not in this order, but there's money, quality of life, safety, and feel like you're moving forward in life. And so I think I'm seeing people think a little bit more broadly in terms of geography, so if you live in London, so you live in the UK, family here, all of this kind of stuff, great. But there's people, they're kind of struggling with career, or the opportunities aren't here. And I'm starting to see more and more people look in other places because, hey, you only live once. So, so just look around, and see what's going on. Hopefully you'll find some interesting stuff and opportunities to move forward. That's what I would say.
Love that, man.
Done. That's the wrap. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you, Lewis.
We'll do more this year, and we'll do more. We'll do more stuff. So thanks everyone for joining. Have an amazing Christmas and New Year. Here is to an incredible 2026. I'm an eternal optimist. So I'm wishing everyone an incredible 26. Lots of love, happiness, good fortune, peace, all of that stuff.
Plus one to that, 100%.
Thank you, guys. Let's end that.